recorded. You can find them either live streamed on YouTube, Facebook, or they will be recorded to YouTube later on. So you can always go back, if you miss something or you just want to watch me again, you're more than welcome to on YouTube. So check. Bear with me for a sec while I get this going. Usually we have someone else kind of running the class, but it's just me today. So my name is Eric. Yes. And yes, towards the end of the season, we're going to have one more class that'll be next week. And then we kind of take a break for the winter. We'll start up probably around February. So check. I promise it was working earlier, but you know how that stuff goes. Check. We'll just go with that. Yeah. Bear with me just a sec. I'll see if I can't get one of these working. If not, I'll just use my outside voice. Check. Okay, I think we might be good. Check. Tell you what, I'll put this on and hopefully it'll start working. If not, I think you all can hear me. If you can't for any reason, just raise your hand, give me a shout, and we'll address it there. So, yeah, I'll kind of start over. Welcome in, everyone. Today's class is going over kind of the best plants, low maintenance. If you're looking for plants that you can just put in the ground, more or less set it and forget it. But, keep in mind, anything you plant up here, they're still going to need some water. There's still, every now and then, you probably want to prune it. And every now and then, you'll still probably want to get up and kind of get familiar with the plants. So, yeah, we'll go ahead and start off kind of a little bit about myself before we get started. I know most of you, I see a lot of familiar faces, so you've probably heard my spiel before. But again, my name is Eric. I've been working here just under 10 years. It'll be 10 years in March. For me, it started as a summer job in high school. I'd skateboard down to work, load mulch into cars, and then skateboard home. Ended up working all the way through high school. College, I went to Embry-Riddle here in town. Got my 4-year degree. I worked here the whole time as well as getting my degree. After I graduated, my background or collegiate background is in drones. So I was working in California doing contract work, realized that I could not spend the rest of my life living in hotels. So when the contracts ended, I ended up coming back here and kind of as a intermediate or looking for something else. And that was a couple years ago. And I absolutely love what I do here. So I've stuck around. As of right now, I manage about 6 departments. I do everything hard goods. So all the insecticides, fertilizers, all the fun stuff inside. I can speak pretty confidently about that. I do all the soils. So any of the bags you see, fountains, I do all the ordering, setup, installation, delivery, same with deliveries for trees, as well as I build a whole lot of stuff around here. I built this backdrop and quite a few other things. So more or less the jack of all trades. So yeah, with that out of the way, we'll kind of go into a little outline of the class. So we're going to start off just going over kind of the fall to-do list. It's getting towards that time of year. There's some stuff out in the yard that is gonna kind of want attention, stuff to get your yard and your plants set up for the winter season. After that, we'll kind of start talking about some of the bigger plants, some awesome trees that tend to be relatively low maintenance. From there, we'll move into shrubs. Got quite a few. We'll go into some more or less desert plants, some of the natives, and then finish it off with some fun flowers that I'd like to talk about because it's the season. So, okay, perfect. So yeah, as promised, we'll go ahead and start off with trees. Oh, and by the way, if anyone has any questions throughout this, just raise your hand. It's a small class. I'm up here for an hour regardless. So feel free to ask. I prefer this to flow more like a conversation as opposed to me just talking for an hour. So, yes.
up. I'm from the East Coast.
Mhm.
Can you tell me if they're native or not?
Yes, absolutely. So we'll do. So welcome in, folks. Okay, so first one I wanted to start off with, kind of drag this up to the front so the folks watching online can see it as well. This is an awesome native plant. This is called the Arizona cypress. They are fantastic trees. They make great privacy screens, windbreaks. You know, your neighbor just parked his RV outside and you don't want to see it outside your bedroom window. This is a fantastic specimen to use in a situation like that. Or even if you just want a nice tree out in the yard. Very versatile. These will grow full size. You're on average looking around 25 feet tall, probably about 10 to 15 feet wide. With age, and you know, if it's real happy, you're giving it plenty of water, it can probably will get a little bit larger than that 25 by 10 to 15. But that's what we usually expect to see out of these trees. As far as drought tolerant, this is one of the best as far as all the evergreens go. This, you know, of course, anything is going to grow best with the most amount of water you can give it. But if you have a situation that it really doesn't work for that, or you just don't want to have a $1,000 water bill in June and July, this is an awesome tree for it. This is the classic Arizona cypress. We do have some other ones that are weeping, as well as a variety called the blue ice, which is kind of more gray, silver, real pretty tree. So awesome trees. Any questions on this one?
Does the blue ice have the same characters, water, size?
Yes. So great question. Anyone who didn't hear, she asked if the blue ice cypress has more or less the same characteristics as far as growth. Absolutely. So, and as far as watering, you know, we always recommend doing, sorry, realized I kind of skipped over some of the stuff I wanted to earlier, but we'll circle back. So as far as watering for a tree like this, the first year that it's in the ground, and to be honest, this is pretty much going to hold true for anything that you see up here. First year it's in the ground, we try and recommend a good heavy watering about twice a week. After that, you can usually cut back to about once a week, you know, subsequent years after its first year. And then throughout winter, you know, we still get snow. We do get some precipitation during winter, but it's still Arizona. We're still a very dry climate. So just because we get some snow doesn't mean you can just forgo watering. On average, we recommend giving it a good deep soak from the months of December through March, about once every 2 weeks. So twice a month, if you can go out with a hose, just give it a good soak. For anyone who isn't familiar, about 10 inches of snow usually equates to less than 1 inch of rain. So it can look like we're getting a whole lot of moisture. It's still very minimal. You know, it's Arizona after all. So, all right.
Would it be a mistake to plant something like that now?
Oh, a great question. So she was asking if it is a good time of year to plant, or if it's a mistake to put something like this in the ground. Now is probably the best time of the year to plant. As we're winding down, temperatures are starting to drop. It's going to be a lot less stressful to get a tree in this time of year, as opposed to, you know, if you get it in now, it has pretty much another month or so that it can work on rooting out. They tend to go dormant during the winter, of course, and then springtime, as soon as we start to warm up, the roots are already in the ground. You know, you've kind of done your prep work by getting it in this time of year. So yeah, springtime, when everything starts to wake up, it's already in the soil. Its roots should be more or less acclimated, and it can take off, and it's going to get established a lot quicker and easier than if you were to put this in say May, and then June where you're in 95-degree weather. So. Yeah, so great question. As far as heavy water, basically a good deep soak. We have a planting guide that goes over the gallon size. So for a tree like this is a 10-gallon bucket that it's in. We would recommend about 10 to 12 gallons of water. every time you water. So, and the planting guide inside, if you don't have one, feel free to go in, ask the cashiers. They'll give you a planting guide. It goes over a watering schedule, a very concise, itemized list of kind of how to get these trees or any plant in the ground, and kind of best practices, what fertilizers to use, how to get it established, etc. So, okay, I mentioned that I accidentally kind of skipped ahead. The thing that I skipped was kind of this time of year, the to-do list, things that you want to look out for, watch out for in your garden. I don't know if anyone here has purchased any of the Henry fountains or bird baths. If anyone has, or if anyone online has, just wanted to mention we recently started carrying fountain covers. All these fountains, they need to be winterized because, of course, you don't want water freezing and unfreezing throughout the season. So this time of year, go ahead and start draining your fountains. All the fountains just have a plug, very easy to do. And then we recommend covering them just to keep snow and precipitation off and from accumulating in the bowls of it. So highly recommend those. We also, if you do have a fountain or bird bath, recently started carrying this clear coat spray. Just keeps the finish lasting longer, keeps your fountain looking prettier for a lot longer. So definitely. So great question. He asked, if you have a fountain, do you pull the pump out or can you just leave it in? With any of the Henry fountains that we have, you can leave the pump in as long as you cover it. If it's in an area that you can't cover it or you can't do something like that, then I would recommend pulling the pump out just so you don't have water freezing and unfreezing throughout the season. So, okay. Just wanted to get that out of the way with fountains. Another great thing to do this time of year is, as we're starting to cool off and plants are starting to wind down, you can go ahead and spread either mulch or cedar bark down kind of around the base of the plants. This just helps them bed in for winter. You can do it with roses, trees, shrubs, just about any plant. Really helps out, kind of keep that root ball protected throughout the season. So, the cedar bark, I mentioned you can use either the mulch or the cedar bark. Beauty's in the eye of the beholder. Realistically, either one will work. I tend to prefer the cedar bark, one, because it smells fantastic. It's a really nice product to use. And two, cedar bark, the natural oils of cedar, is a insect repellent. So you're kind of killing two birds with one stone by using the shredded red cedar. Okay, we'll see if anything else pops up. But already went over the Arizona cypress. So now want to talk about this guy here. This is a really cool tree. This is the Sweet Bubba Desert Willow. You'll tend to see these all over town. If you're anytime kind of spring through summer, even up into the fall, these had flowers probably up until 2 weeks ago or so. Then they start to kind of wind down for their season. These are awesome trees, tend to be very drought tolerant. That being said, of course, you still got to water it, and that holds true with any of these. This one here, the Sweet Bubba variety, you should expect to see right around 15 feet tall and wide, maybe up to around 20 feet tall and wide after quite a while. But fantastic tree, great fragrance, just kind of a nice specimen. If you're looking for something else to put in your yard that's not just another evergreen or a conifer, these are beautiful, beautiful plants. So, and the smell is incredible. It smells like rain on a hot desert day down in Phoenix.
You said flowers?
Yes, yeah. So they do flower. I don't know if you can see here from the tag. I'll bring this closer to you, but they put off these real pretty magenta flowers. And again, the fragrance from them is just spectacular. Mm-hmm. Yeah, great question. So she was asking about trimming and kind of pruning these. Once they flower, here's an example. Yes. Yeah, if you have some kind of small spindly stalks that are just flopping over, you can absolutely go through and trim them. I always carry these on me, just some small, easy to use bypass pruners. These are fantastic, but realistically, you can use just about anything. If you're looking for something, though, highly recommend going with some of these. Correct. Yeah. First year it's in the ground. The first year is always going to be the most stressful. So giving it a good deep soak is kind of the best way to just keep them happy throughout the hot season. Um, so yeah, Sweet Bubba Desert Willow, awesome tree. Yeah. So great question. She was asking about sun requirements for a tree like this. This is basically a full sun tree. It will be happy, southwest facing side of a house. It can take the full sun just fine. If you have an area that gets some partial shade, it should also do fine. If it gets anywhere below about 6 hours of direct sun during the summer, usually we notice these don't bloom quite as prolifically. They'll still flower for you, but it won't be the full extent to the flowering. Okay, so over here, oh, wanted to talk about my favorite evergreen. This guy here is called the Vanderwolf pine. These are incredible trees. Pines grow fantastic up here in the Tri-City area. And when I say pines, we're talking the Austrian pines, which tend to be kind of the biggest ones we get. You're looking at like 60 feet tall, 40-foot wide, massive, massive trees eventually. So yeah, there's quite a few different trees that we sell here that fall into the pine category. But I love the Vanderwolf. Reason being is I do a lot of loading and unloading of trees like this. This one here is so soft. The bristles are, it's a longleaf pine or long needle pine. This one, it's a huggable tree. In fact, I encourage you, after class, please come up and feel this tree. It's unlike any other pine that you really find around here. So nice thing about this one too, does stay relatively compact, on the scale of large pine trees. So size-wise, going to be getting right around 25 feet tall, about 15 feet wide. So if you want a nice specimen evergreen tree, but you don't have, a 40-foot diameter area to put one in, this can really kind of fit into some smaller areas, or it can also look good out in a larger area, kind of by itself or around other plants. Very, very hardy. Again, now is a fantastic time of year to get one of these in the ground. In fact, let's see. So this one is a USDA Zone 4, meaning that it can go down to a climate, a winter temp of around negative 30 degrees. If we ever get negative 30 here in Prescott, we got a lot other issues to worry about than the health of your pine tree. But yeah, fantastic tree, very, very hardy. And what I was saying about the cold weather temp, you put it in now, our winters, this is a Zone 4. Here in Prescott, we're Zone 7 to 8, meaning that our basically the lowest temps that you see throughout the winter months are kind of in the 0 to 10 degree range. That's not going to touch this. So you get it in now. It has all winter to kind of start getting established, and then it's more a lot better just to start off this time of year as opposed to putting this in when we're 95 degrees. So Vanderwolf pine, awesome tree, one of my personal favorites. I planted one of these in my backyard right around a year ago, and it just took off. I'm doing the good deep watering about twice a week. Since we started getting some rain and cooled off, now I'm doing it about once a week, but it's probably put on another foot up top, and it's just growing and thriving. So beautiful tree. Now, the last tree I wanted to talk about, and this one is quite large, and I don't want to break any branches up top, so I won't pull this around. Let me turn the camera so anyone watching online can see. So this here, you will see these all over town. We talk about them quite extensively. Very, very common tree here for great reason. It's just a a very hardy, awesome tree. This is the Autumn Blaze maple. The name Autumn Blaze, this is the tree, if you're driving around and you see a tree that just, it's bright red, or, you get the yellows and the oranges, it's fantastic fall color, very hard to beat. It makes a fantastic shade tree. Size-wise, on average, usually expect these to get right around 50 feet tall, about 40 foot wide with the canopy. So they will grow quite large. I recommend kind of checking out your area, making sure you have enough space to get one of these in before you just plop it in the ground. But beautiful trees, very, very hardy. We sell quite a few of these. This is probably our most common deciduous tree, and it's just a good one to go with. So, all right.
They don't make that in a dwarf.
So, good question. She asked if these came in a dwarf variety. Short answer is no, they don't. Not for this specific tree, the Autumn Blaze. That being said, there are a couple of different varieties of maples that we sell. We have one called the Amir maple. That'll get about 20 feet tall, 20 feet wide. So that, very similar, just kind of a smaller variety. There's also another one called the Armstrong Gold maple. You can expect to get probably around 40 feet of height out of those, but it's a much more narrow tree, kind of more columnar as opposed to that big wide shade canopy.
Does it have
Yes, so they still do put off an awesome fall color. We have a couple of the Amir maples in stock at the moment. They're kind of right in that stage of going from green to red and all the other colors. The Armstrong Gold, as the name implies, tends to be a little bit more yellow gold color. You don't get quite the flame effect of the red. So perfect. That kind of concludes the trees that I wanted to talk about. That being said, we have a great selection of trees, and there are basically every tree that we sell here, we stand by it growing and doing well here in Prescott or the Tri-City area. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. If you are looking for an Austrian pine or spruce, we can usually kind of take a look at figure out where you're intending on planting it and telling you yay or nay. So yeah, awesome tree, highly recommend. And again, the Autumn Blaze maple is another tree that it's very cold hardy. I try and go up to Montana about twice a year. I've got a bunch of friends up there, and I love being up there. These are all over Bozeman, Montana. We're talking an area that gets negative 40 degrees in the winter. I've been there negative 28, and tree, of course it's deciduous, but it's grown just fine, and it comes back every single spring. So beautiful tree, highly recommend for this area.
all of the trees, first year, all need heavy watering?
Correct.
After the first year, can you adapt, or is it nature, or what?
Yes, so after the first year of a tree being in the ground, we usually recommend from going twice a week waterings to about once a week watering. Of course, it's still going to be a heavy, deep soak, just to kind of help pull it through the summer. So, okay, awesome. So again, that's kind of the main trees that I wanted to talk about, but feel free, ask questions or come up after the class if there's something up here or there isn't something up here that you have questions about. I can still probably speak pretty well about it. So moving on to some smaller plants, we'll go into shrubs. This one here is kind of more along the lines of being a native. This is called Cotoneaster. The specific variety is the Parnii Cotoneaster. As you can see, nice shrub, dense foliage. It's a great privacy or wind block. It will eventually grow up to around 6 feet by 6 feet, maybe up to about 8 feet by 8 feet. So they will get quite large. You can prune it back really as much or as little as you want. If you only want it 5 feet tall, you can absolutely keep it at 5 feet tall. If you want the full glory of the plant, you can just let it do its thing, and it'll kind of cap off right around that 8 by 8 range. These are beautiful plants. very drought tolerant. That being said, of course, still water it, please. There's realistically not a tree here at Waters, or a plant here at Waters Garden Center that can go without water. So, and we do have folks asking about that every now and then. It's Arizona, dry climate, plants need water. So yeah, Parnii cotoneaster, awesome plant, very, very drought tolerant. It can take the full sun, you know, the hot afternoon sun. It'll take that just fine, or it can take some part shade if you have an area that, you know, under a tree, or if you're up in the pines, it can get by just fine with without that complete full sun. So. Now, this guy here is another cotoneaster. This one is the gray leaf cotoneaster. You can see the foliage is much smaller on this one as opposed to this. And the plant overall will stay much smaller. Full size, these usually get about 3 foot tall, and they'll spread maybe up to around 4 to 6 feet wide. So kind of a lower growing variety. They put off these red berries kind of this time of year. Both of these during the springtime will actually put off a bunch of tiny little white flowers in clusters. So it's not just a boring evergreen plant. You know, you still get some kind of variety and variation throughout the seasons with it. And as I mentioned, these are all evergreens. So, you know, if you are looking for a shade block or a wind block or privacy, you want to go with evergreen, because you don't want to look at your neighbor's RV for 6 months of the year, and then 6 months of the year it's covered. You want it covered all the time. So yes, gray leaf cotoneaster, basically just a smaller variety of this, but more along the lines of being a native, very drought tolerant, and very hardy during our summers and our winters. So now one last cotoneaster that I wanted to talk about. If you can't tell, cotoneaster is a good plant to put in the ground here. This one is a ground cover cotoneaster. So it'll only get about 6 inches, maybe up to about 1 foot tall, but it will spread about 8 feet wide. So you get a real nice kind of wide carpet area. A lot of times you'll see these planted on hillsides. They can really help out with erosion control. Or you can just plant it in flat land if you're looking for something else and kind of want to cover some square footage in your yard. A great example of some real nice established ones of these around town, if you want to check them out, is the 1AZ Credit Union off of Gail Gardner. It's just right down the street. You drive by, you see these, they are beautiful plants. They're low spreading. They work well with the rock landscape that I'm sure a lot of us have in our yards, because it is Arizona. So drought tolerant, kind of on the slower growing side, but they will fill in very nicely just to a kind of a dense carpet. Again, hillsides you can plant them on, or just flat land. So, and they'll take full sun just like the other ones.
And evergreen also. Evergreen
as well, yes. So very easy plant to grow. Got a mosquito?
Yep.
Good. One less buzzing around. All right. Now, this one here, this is a real cool plant. This is called the gold spot euonymus. Reason being, you get the awesome variegation, you know, the dark green with the yellow. Just a kind of a neat plant to add some color to your landscape. It's also evergreen, so you get to look at it year round without just going out and looking at a stick in the yard. If you want a great example of these around town, Embry-Riddle's campus uses these quite extensively in their landscape. Beautiful plants, full size, they will get quite large. You're looking about 10 feet tall by 6 feet wide. So if you do have a larger area to fill in, that's a great plant to go with. Or you can, it's hardy enough that you can trim it back to make a hedge. You can put in a row of them, or just do one by itself. It's kind of one of those easy plants that tends to look good regardless of what you do. So, great question. She asked if this is a fast-growing plant. This is definitely on the quicker side. Once it's established, so after the first year to 2 years that it's in the ground, should expect to see probably around 1 foot of growth, if not maybe a little bit more per year. So. Okay. Now this guy here, this is another really cool one, evergreen as well. So you get to look at it year round. This is called Nandina, also known as heavenly bamboo. For the most part, we call these Nandina. It's kind of a side note, real neat because it's one of the few plants that the Latin name for it and the common name are basically interchangeable. So the Latin for this is Nandina, or that's kind of what we tend to call them around here. This specific one here is the Tuscan Flame. So this will get about 4 feet tall. It'll get about 3 feet wide and kind of stay there. So it's never going to overpower or go crazy, you know. Just an awesome plant. It'll take the full sun just fine. Very, I would say drought tolerant. You know, of course, the caveat: everything needs water. It's Arizona. Neat thing too about this, you can see in the tag, the bright red that you see here on the tag, that's what the new growth comes out as. So, you know, the older growth kind of reverts back to this green, but the newer stuff, you can see up here, does come out kind of more red, orange, just add some variation in the landscape, as opposed to something that's just green all the time, all year round.
How long does it stay?
So she asked how long this stays red. Sorry, I was hoping this microphone would come online, but I think everyone can still hear me all right. Okay, perfect. So the new growth kind of comes out that bright red, and then so you pretty much get that throughout the growing season. During the winter, you do get a little bit of cold weather color. So basically, you kind of, it's never going to be completely green year round. So does that answer the question? Perfect. Okay. Now, the last shrub that I wanted to talk about is called the yew. This is an awesome plant, yew spelled Y-E-W, not Y-O-U. These are really, really cool, super soft, dense foliage. The one thing about this is a shade plant. We always recommend, if you're going to put one of these in, put it in maybe a courtyard that gets covered from the sun, or a lot of times north-facing sides of a house where they aren't getting any direct sun exposure. Tends to be a kind of a better place to put these. If you do put it out in a hot, you know, south or west-facing area of your yard, during the summer it will fry. So just keep that in mind. Shade plant. This one is the dense spreading yew, so it will get about 4 feet tall by 6 feet wide. But we have quite a good selection of different varieties of these. We have some that will grow. You know, we're talking like 10 feet tall. In fact, Ken Lane, the owner of Waters, has a beautiful one. It's probably about 10 feet tall. It's on the north-facing side of his house. Very little maintenance. It's just one of those awesome evergreen plants that really tends to look good year-round. So, okay. So, now I said that was it for the shrubs. There is one other that I wanted to talk about. Wouldn't be a class if I didn't talk about roses. So this one here is one of the coolest ones that we have at the moment. This is called the Marc Chagall. Beautiful flowers, a relatively small rose. And reason I wanted to talk about this, they are very hardy. You know, it's a kind of a easy plant. For the most part, very low maintenance. You know, we do recommend trimming these back in the springtime. Late February to early March is a great time of year to prune your roses, or just about any other plants in your yard for that. But main reason I wanted to talk about these is we're trying to get rid of these for the fall. You know, as we're getting into the winter, the colder months, we don't want to keep these sitting here, you know, in the middle of January when there's a foot of snow on the ground. So all the roses right now, we've got 2 raised beds kind of directly out the back door that you folks came in. They are all marked down to $25. So you could get this rose here, this specific one, for 25 bucks. Now is a great time of year to get one of these in the ground. Just wanted to mention that because we are trying to kind of clear out for the fall, and it's an awesome plant. If no one else takes this today, I think it's going in my backyard. So Also, that being said, all the plants up here that I'm talking about, when I go through and when I was preparing to set everything up for the class yesterday, I was picking out the kind of the best looking plants, the best selection, best variety. If there is one up here that I'm talking about that you think, yes, that's a plant that I would like to go with, feel free after class, come up and you're more than welcome to grab anything off the table. It's less for me to put away, and you get a good plant that I've picked out. So here in Prescott, we do recommend trimming roses in the springtime. So late February, early March. That's kind of the sweet spot in the weather here. It's right before we start warming up and the plants start coming alive for the season. If you do it then, basically you're starting off fresh each season, and they'll still get full size by the end of the season for any of the roses.
Do we even get cold enough for them to go fully dormant?
So yes, roses will go pretty much fully dormant. The root ball is still alive down in the soil, but it is a deciduous plant. They'll drop all their leaves. It'll just look like a bunch of sticks with thorns in the middle of winter. So yeah, she was asking about pruning for the roses. Usually, if it's a real big rose, I've got one right outside my bedroom window. I tend to cut that back maybe to a foot and a half above the soil level. Just basically cut the whole thing down, kind of condense it. You don't necessarily have to prune it. And if you really want to, you can cut it back, just a couple inches above. But usually I try and err on the side of caution. So about a foot to 2 feet above the soil level tends to be a good kind of average way of doing it. So
that one you cut maybe half of it?
Yes. Yeah. With this one, you can kind of go through and you'll see on here, let me pull this up so camera and you folks can see where this main stem here is quite woody, and then you get into the newer growth. It doesn't quite have the bark. That's usually where I would trim it. So kind of, you don't want to trim off too much of the woody, the bark area of it, but you can go through and trim off, anything like this, you can just snip off. Okay, so that is all the shrubs. Now I figure we'll go into some true drought-tolerant plants. So this guy here is a red yucca. You'll see these all over town, quite common for good reason. It's a very hardy plant. You'll see these a lot in kind of xeriscape yards or areas that you don't want to be watering all the time. Of course, still recommend, first year, it needs water. Please water your plants. But these are fantastic. The plant itself stays relatively small. I think it'll get about 2 by 2, maybe upwards of 3 by 3. We're talking about the kind of the grassy yucca part of this. And then each summer through fall, it'll shoot off this big red spike. We also have ones that flower yellow. These traditionally you see as seed pods. This variety is just a flower. So it's not going to go crazy, and you won't come out one morning and have 100 of these all over your yard. So yuccas, fantastic plants here. They grow very well, and really don't have any issues, whether it's heat of the summer or dead of winter. They just kind of do their own thing. So yeah, he asked about the size. With this one, oh, actually I stand corrected. That specific one will eventually get about 4 feet by 4 feet. We do have a dwarf variety that stays, I think, closer to 2 foot by 2 foot. And then, of course, there's yellow ones as well.
We used to have those down in the valley, and once they get big like that, you'll get 8 to 10 flower stalks.
Yes, yeah, they are very prolific. So, and just kind of a neat splash of color in a desert landscape. So now, there's very little to no maintenance with them. Just water it. Most folks have drip irrigation set up anyways. If you want, you can trim off this yellow or the kind of the big spike after it's done its flowering, or they tend to just sort of fall off and do their own thing if you let it. So Now, one more yucca that I wanted to talk about. This is a cool one here. This is called the Color Guard. Again, this one will get about 4 feet tall, 4 feet wide. And it's just a neat kind of color variation, kind of plays well with the gold spot euonymus. Easy plant, very little maintenance. Like the other one, basically it just does its own thing and it'll grow. You know, it needs water, but very little, very marginal. Not really anything you have to do with them. Kind of you plant it, water it, look at it, appreciate it, and that's about it. So now this guy here is agave. This is a real cool little guy. It's little right now. This eventually will get about 4 feet tall by 5 feet wide. These will grow into huge, beautiful plants. You'll see these quite commonly around town as well. Every now and then you'll see one that's full size, and they're just spectacular. It's a really neat plant. I'm not into tequila, but if you are, this is kind of a cool one to go with because that's where tequila comes from. This specific variety here is the artichoke agave. It's a zone 6, meaning that it's cold hardy down to around -10 degrees, which our winters here really won't touch it. We're zone 7, so we tend to stay about 10 degrees warmer than that. That being said, we do have a pretty good selection of different agaves. I grabbed this one because I didn't want to grab a big one and risk putting one of these through my palm today. But there are some varieties that aren't quite as cold tolerant. There are a couple that are more of a zone 8, which for the most part are just fine here in town. But if we do get a crazy cold snap throughout the winter and you have one of those, you may consider putting a frost cloth over it just to kind of help keep it looking better throughout the winter. So yeah, artichoke agave, real neat little guy. So, but it won't stay too little. So now another one, this is salvia, also known as autumn sage. Very, very popular plant, very common one, probably one of the best-selling kind of small perennial flowers or shrubs. This will get about 3 feet tall, about 3 feet wide, stays relatively compact. It is deciduous, so during the winter, it'll pretty much die completely back to the ground. But springtime pops right back up, and these flowers are incredible. Hummingbirds love them, butterflies. If you're looking for a real good pollinator plant, this is something that'll bring them into your yard. Yeah, awesome plant. The flowers pretty much last from spring. We're talking like usually around April, May. Here, I can bring this a little closer for you. So flowers usually around April, May, and as you can see, it'll hold it all the way up through October. Once we really start to get cold around November, usually that's when it'll start kind of dying back for the season. So yeah, she asked if we trim these or if you do for the winter. Usually you can. You don't necessarily have to. You can just kind of let it do its own thing. The parts that are going to die off will start to die off and kind of fall off. Or you can go through and just clip around, kind of keep it smaller and more compact throughout the winter. So kind of either or. Okay. Perfect. So that kind of concludes all the shrubs and the desert plants. Now there's 2 vines that I wanted to talk about. This one here is Virginia creeper, a very common plant. You'll see it all over town or pretty much all over the U.S. It's a very, very hardy plant, very prolific grower. It's awesome, you know, if you have a hillside or you want something to help with erosion control, you can just let these go and it'll spread on its own. Very quick growing. It is deciduous, but that being said, you get fantastic fall color. You get some reds. You can see this one's just kind of starting to. We have a couple other varieties of Virginia creeper that are, some have already started dropping all their leaves, and some like this are just starting to put on their fall color. This eventually, if you just let it do its own thing, it will spread up to around 35 feet. You know, each of those vines will just kind of do their own thing, and So if you have the space, it's an awesome plant. If you are worried about something, if it is getting close to other plants, you just go out and kind of trim it back, cut it back so it's not infringing or engulfing on the other ones. So yeah, she asked if this can take some shade. Yes, this can take pretty much anywhere from full sun to part shade. I wouldn't recommend this in complete shade, but as long as it gets a couple hours of direct sun per day, it'll grow just fine for you. All right. Now, the last vine to talk about, another one of my favorites, the Hall's Japanese honeysuckle. As the Virginia creeper, honeysuckle is one of those plants that pretty much grows just about anywhere. Very common, very easy to grow, just kind of does its own thing. This will spread up to around 20 to 30 feet if you let it. It makes a great plant if you're trying to cover a trellis or a chain link fence. Real good privacy. Neat thing too is this is one of the few vines here in Prescott and the only variety of honeysuckle that is an evergreen or semi-evergreen, meaning that for the most part, this keeps its leaves year-round. During the dead of winter, it'll drop off some, that being the semi-evergreen part. But it's never going to die back completely like the other varieties of honeysuckle or say like the Virginia creeper. This one flowers. I think every honeysuckle flowers, but this one, awesome fragrant flowers. It's another great plant to attract pollinators in your yard. And you get yellow and white flowers. So real pretty. You walk past one of these when it's in full bloom during the summer and you kind of have to stop and smell it. It's just a really, really neat one. So.
Do you have to cut that back then at like third or half or something like that? If it's taken over your trellis completely so that you get more room, so just leave them.
Yes, so if it does get to the point where it's kind of you're getting more plant than you want or need, you can absolutely just go through and cut it back. Doing some trimming is really not going to harm it. They're very, very hardy plants. So, yeah. Again, Hall's Japanese honeysuckle. Okay, moving on. It is the season for some smaller, kind of the annual and perennial flowers as we're getting into the cold weather. So I wanted to talk about violas. We've got a great selection of these right now. You probably passed them all as you came up to the class as you walked through the lower greenhouse. Just so many unique colors, unique patterns on the flowers. This is one of my personal favorites, this kind of baby blue one. Just awesome plants. They come in 6-packs or little 4-inch pots. So, if you're doing container gardening, great plant to put in. And they take the cold weather just fine. I've got quite a few of these at my house, and they pretty much last all winter long. It's one of the first plants to pop up through the snow in the springtime. So violas, its very, very common brother is pansy. Again, awesome cold hardy flower. They pretty much flower up until we really start getting cold. And even then, it's still one of the first things to pop up through the snow in the spring. So pansies and violas, just neat little splashes of color to add throughout the landscape. Snapdragons as well. We've got a great selection of these. The cold will kind of knock these out, but you still have a month or so before you even start to worry about that. Same thing with chrysanthemums. We've got a great selection of these, and we'll continue to get more in kind of throughout the next couple weeks, maybe upwards of a month. But awesome flowers. If you're having folks over or just want a splash of color, can't recommend these enough. So.
When's the latest you put this in the ground?
Yeah, so she asked when the latest that you can put one of these in the ground is. I would recommend doing it sooner than later. This is a perennial, but if you put it in, right before we really start to freeze, a lot of times that will kill off the root system. So the sooner you can get it in, the longer that root system will have to get established and started in the soil before we really kind of get our cold snaps. So yes, that's chrysanthemums. Two other little plants that I wanted to talk about kind of as we're wrapping up. These are kind of ground covers or spreaders. First one here, this is the Huntington carpet rosemary, very common plant. You'll see these all over town. This is a real nice one. Again, great for hillsides. If you have rock walls or retaining walls, borders, something like that. This looks fantastic. It'll kind of trail down over those. Just adds a splash of green to otherwise a rocky desert landscape. This specific variety will get about 2 feet tall and it will spread about 8 feet wide. So you get just a lot of coverage with something like this. And as you can see, really pretty little kind of bluish flowers on it. So also very hardy, very drought tolerant. And then of course, mint. If anyone's grown mint before, you know that this will.
Don't do it.
Yes. The plant grows itself. But that being said, it's an awesome plant to put in if you have an area that you just want something different or something unique. This one here I grabbed, this is the chocolate mint. I'll actually pass this around. But here, we'll start over here. But just rub your fingers on the leaf and smell it. Fantastic. Really, really cool. So, okay. Well, we are starting to wrap up right on time. I figured I'll briefly talk about the soils. If you are planting any of these in the ground, highly recommend going with mulch. Also, for those of you who don't know, any tree, shrub, or perennial that you buy here, if you buy mulch on the same receipt, that automatically gives you a 2-year warranty, meaning that we'll cover half the cost of that plant for up to 2 years, as long as you get the plant and the mulch here. So real good stuff. This is, we formulated it specifically for our soil, for our area, to be the best amendment on the market for our Prescott Tri-City area. So anything, if it's going in the ground, you want to use some mulch with it. If it's going in a pot or a container, then we recommend using potting soil. Again, this specific one here, we formulated it for this area. It's got a lot of peat moss in it to help with the moisture retention during the hot summers. You know, especially if you have a dark color pot in full sun during June or July when we're 95 degrees, that will basically cook the moisture out of the soil. This soil is designed with that in mind to help retain some of that moisture. It's a really good planting medium for just about anything that you're going to be planting here. Now, barnyard manure. We're getting towards that time of year where, you know, if you're doing veggie gardens, raised beds, stuff like that, and those gardens are kind of on the downturn for the season, you can go ahead and once you get everything tilled up, you highly recommend mixing some of this in the soil now. With the manure, this has been cooked off, but it is still relatively hot. So we always recommend giving it about 4 weeks that you put this in before you plant. 4 to 6 weeks, actually. So if you do it now, you kind of already starting to get your soil conditioned for the springtime when you put in all your veggies or whatever else you may be planting. That's manure. And then humic acid. This stuff here is a really cool product. Humic acid is essentially the byproduct of compost. So when grown up, my dad always had the big compost bin that smelled pretty nasty. Essentially what you're deriving from that is humic acid. What we like about this one is it's a granular, it doesn't stink, super easy. All you have to do is spread it down. It's not a fertilizer. We kind of call it a soil conditioner. Basically, it's opening up the soil for new life. It'll encourage earthworms and kind of the good insects that you want, the good microbes, and yeah, just helps get the soil started. So highly recommend doing some of this. This is also fantastic for lawns. You know, if you have a lawn and you have a dog that likes to use the potty on the lawn, this will work wonders to kind of help green it back up. It's just a great product. You can spread it around trees, shrubs, flowers, lawns. If it's green, if it's in your yard, give it some of this and it should definitely help kind of perk it up. Yes, you can absolutely use it for vegetables. Nope, it's already a kind of a granular, so you just spread it on the soil. As you water it in, it'll break down and start to saturate. Now is a fantastic time of year to do it. Absolutely, you can realistically do it any time of year, but you know, you do it now, you're just kind of helping get everything set up for the springtime. So now fertilizer. There are very few nutrients in our native soil, you know, our water as well. Fertilizer is highly recommended. In fact, most plants really will not take off unless they are getting fertilized. This stuff here is our all-purpose. It's a 744 fertilizer. I like to tell folks, think of this as like the steak and potatoes of a plant's nutrient intake. Really good stuff. It's a pelletized granular, so all you have to do is sprinkle it around the soil. As you water it in, as we get precipitation, it'll break down and saturate just like the humic acid. Very common. We talk about it all the time. We formulated it specifically for this area. One thing that sets this fertilizer apart from the Miracle Grows and all the other stuff on the market is because it's formulated for our area. Anyone who doesn't know, our native soil is extremely alkaline, or yes, very alkaline. So it's on average, I'd say most of the soil tests we do, where you see that pH scale, probably right around an 8, which plants do not like. Plants want to be a little bit more on the acidic side, usually around a 7 to 7.5. This is designed to help bring that pH level back down closer to the 7, where plants thrive. So, and it's pretty much kind of the only one on the market that you can get around here that is specifically for our area. So, awesome stuff. Now, if you do put something new in the ground, anytime you plant something new, we always recommend using Root and Grow. This is a rooting stimulant. Basically, what this does is you can kind of think of it as a fertilizer, but more, it just helps plants get established quicker, helps promote that root growth, which in turn gives you a healthier tree. It starts off kind of on the right root. You can use this for any new planting. We recommend it for that. You can also use it, you know, even if you have an established plant, but it's showing some summer stress or just stressed out or not doing so hot, you can give it some of this. It will really help out. This is kind of like the cold medicine. In fact, I even use it as a houseplant fertilizer. I use it kind of sparingly, but it is fantastic. My plants love this stuff, and therefore I love it too. So yeah, really good stuff. It's a liquid, super easy to use. You just do 2 ounces of this mixed in with a gallon of water, and we recommend watering about once every 2 weeks, kind of until the plant pulls out of its stress.
Question.
Yes,
So
sir.
if you planted a plant this time of year, how long would you go on? Because we're heading into winter.
Correct.
So how long, it says every 2 weeks to use it after you plant.
Yes.
Would you use it more than just the initial planting if you're planting now?
So if I were to put a plant in the ground right now, I would still probably keep using this, maybe 3 or 4 applications of it. The more the merrier, and it is all organic. It's a 2-2-1, so you really don't risk burning the plant or overdoing it. It just kind of helps get the plant started. During the dead of winter, you don't really have to use it quite as much because, you know, the plant isn't focused on growing or promoting root growth. It's just kind of hunkering down and hibernating. So, last thing to talk about, and then we'll kind of wind down and open it up for questions. See, we're right at 10:30. Flower power. If you have a rose, pansy, viola, snapdragon, anything that flowers, flower power is awesome stuff. In fact, I use this with my pansies when I plant during the springtime. This past season, I had pansies growing all the way through June. You know, the heat of the summer when most of those are kind of done, just move them into the shade. I kept giving it some flower power, and they kept growing. It's really, really good stuff. Just promotes flowers. You know, if you have folks coming over in 2 weeks, put some of this down, and in 2 weeks, that plant will be in full bloom. So really good stuff. Kind of a neat alternative use is we see a lot of folks using this for tomatoes or peppers. The buds, or basically the fruit of those plants, come from flowers. The more flowers you have, the more fruit production you're going to get. So really cool stuff. Highly recommend. Very easy to use. It's a kind of like a powder. There's a scoop in here. Just do a scoop in your watering can. Water once every 2 weeks, and you're good to go. So perfect. Well, that's oh yes, absolutely. Yeah, she asked if you could use this, the flower power, for an autumn sage. Of course, yes, it is. It's really good stuff, and it'll keep that autumn sage flowering even more. So awesome. Well, that pretty much wraps up everything I wanted to talk about today. We'll open it up for questions now.
Sorry, 2 questions since I'm new there.
Yes.
What do you guys consider dead of winter?
So usually winter is here kind of December through March. So our average first frost date is October 29th. So which is about a week and a half, 2 weeks away. So we are kind of starting to wind down. Most of these plants will still do just fine. You know, if we get to 30 degrees or so, if it is a plant that you're concerned about, usually, you know, something that's not going to winter over, we consider around 27 to 28 degrees being a hard freeze. So even though it's below that 32, you know, if we drop down to 32 at night, usually it's just for an hour or so. But if we get down to the 27 or below, that's what we consider a real hard freeze here. So, yeah, none of these are going to hurt the animals. For the most part, you know, like the Arizona cypress, very few critters are ever going to bother this. Oh, yes. As far as pets, I would not worry about any of these plants around pets.
And are they deer food?
For the most part, no. Cotoneasters tend to be real resistant. Nandina, very rarely we'll see critters going after that. Maples, every now and then you'll see, you know, some of the lower foliage when the new leaves come out in the springtime. Every now and then some deer will come up and nibble. But for the most part, all the plants up here, critters tend to leave them alone. Yes, and it also kind of depends on the winter that we have. You know, this past winter, we were very dry and very warm, so we didn't get all the plants that usually grow out in the woods that the deer and rabbits go after. So they didn't have all those. So this past spring, we saw a lot more animals coming into people's yards to nibble their plants.
Pronghorn in my front yard.
That would do it.
All of January and February.
Yes. So fantastic. Yes, sir.
So, given the heat, and if I wanted to buy, say, a desert willow,
Mhm.
would it be better, number one, cost, to plant it, say, September timeframe?
September is a great time of year to put them in. Basically, September, October are probably my favorite times of year to plant. But yeah, even with the desert willow, you know, I probably don't want to put it in the middle of January because it won't have any leaves and you'll be digging through half frozen soil. But aside from that, you can realistically put it in just about any time. So.
You were talking about watering through the winter on newly planted stuff. What do you recommend for established plants?
So great question. He was asking about watering for established plants throughout the winter. For the most part, you know, if it's a shrub or something, you'll still want to give it some water. You know, whether it's just going out with a garden hose or a 5-gallon bucket. about once every 2 weeks, giving it a soak. We do recommend that. We find that plants tend to grow a lot better. Same thing with, say, maple trees, aspen trees. We're still such a dry climate. We do recommend it. Some trees like, say, the spruce or pine, a lot of those you can just kind of leave alone. And they're a lot more native, like this Arizona cypress. You could probably get by without giving it water over the winter. I'd still recommend it just to kind of help keep it healthy and get it started off for spring.
So essentially, you're saying you have your drip systems run every other week?
Yes. Well, so most folks do drain their drip systems for the winter. You don't want it to freeze because that'll wreak havoc on whether it's a meter control box or the emitters. What we find usually right around the end of October, early November, we do recommend kind of winterizing your drip irrigation and then just watering by hand for anything else. So, perfect. Any other questions? So I'll still be around up here for a little while after the class if you want to come up and ask anything else. But awesome. Well, thank you all for coming in. Have a great Saturday. Yes.
Blue spruce versus that
Yeah. So,
one. I mean, that, the blue ice, sorry.
oh, the cypress
Yeah.
versus the Vanderwolf.
But the blue ice.
Yeah. Both are. I will say the Vanderwolf or the cypress is going to be a bit more drought tolerant.
Okay.
That
That was just so cute.
Yes.
That's all. But
Yeah.
yeah, we're putting in a couple of trees that we just took it over. They look like that one right there.
Gotcha.
So
Okay.
we're cutting them down.
Mhm.
So we've been told blue ice would be gorgeous and big,
Yes.
which the aqua maples are dying.
Hmm.
I don't know why they call
Well, that's how they should be looking this time
them
of
white,
year.
half white.
Yes. Yeah, it's just dropping off its leaves for the winter. It'll come back full force in the springtime.
What if it was doing that like 2 months ago?
2 months ago is a little premature.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, because half our trees are like all it has been going on for like a couple of months.
oh,
So I just wanted to make sure.
gotcha.
Okay. So the
So, and if you are looking for the blue ice, they're going to be the closest ones to us right over there.
and how fast do they grow?
Usually, once they're established, I'd expect to see probably around a foot of growth per year, 8 inches to a foot.
I'm going to be putting in brand new raised garden beds for the first time.
Okay.
Do you guys sell your potting soils bulk, like by the yard?
We do not sell it bulk. We do have price breaks if you get either 3 or 6 bags. But yeah, unfortunately, we don't sell any large quantities.
Do you know of anyone else that does that in town?
I do not.
Okay.
I will say it can be very hard to find good soil around Prescott.
I might even go down to Valley, go to the Arizona farm.
Yeah.
Just load up the truck.
Yeah, if you're able to do that, that's usually a pretty good option. I will say every now and then we'll have someone buy a full pallet of our potting soil and we'll put it right into the back of their truck for them. Or we do offer delivery. But yeah.
Thank you.
I have a question. So some of those, I have a hillside